Jason, and I
Oh,
have
alright, so-
Jason's.
Okay.
Cause I've corrected.
Yeah, they should have that.
Oh, good.
This is the one Adam looked at and he's like, oh, it says it in here too.
All right,
I have.
notice in the time in the presence of a quorum, I call the March 10th Acton Finance Committee meeting to order. This meeting is being held at Acton Public TV and is being recorded. Anybody who is recording this should make themselves known to the chair at this time. Hearing none, we move on to public comment, public participation. We don't have anybody in public this evening, so we'll continue with our annual town meeting warrant articles, discussions, and recommendations. So we'll be starting on is that the Jason article?
Yeah.
Okay, so Mr. Cole was unable to make it this evening, but did send me his comments, and I will read those in a moment. For article number 5, town capital infrastructure studies and improvements.
I have them all pulled up. Do you want me to see them? I have them all pulled up. Do you want me to read them?
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right. Article 5 capital request. Looks like quite a bit has been done behind the scenes to get as much accomplished as possible with grants and with scaling back where possible. No specific components that he'd like to push back against, though he does think that WRAC study is the start of a slippery slope. His main objection to this is that when asked if the town would do something akin to what the schools are doing, namely having a public listing of the asks, an approximate timeline of when they will be addressed, and the resulting final cost versus the estimate, town manager demurred to provide such a level of detail. He'd ask him to reconsider that decision in future years, but at this time, no pressing need to block these. We move to recommend this article. So I will move on Jason's behalf to recommend this article.
Is there any further discussion?
Which one's a second? Thank you. Which one is the WRAC? It's not.
H,
H.
The water resource.
Water resource study? Okay.
40 grand.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? So that is recommended as well. Brings us to the next article, which is article number 6. Acton Foxborough Regional School District Assessment to see if the town will raise, appropriate, transfer to the $63,106,272 to defray necessary expense of the Acton Foxborough Regional School District or take any other action relative there too.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and change that for you.
Sure.
I move we recommend the Acton Foxborough Regional School District assessment to see if the town will raise an appropriate transfer and or appropriate from available funds the sum of $66,012,542, which is the revised total assessment for FY21. To defray the necessary expenses of the Acton Foxborough Regional School District or taking the action relative thereto.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Mike?
You're talking about another $3 million?
Per the ALG spreadsheet and the new numbers for Brian.
66, is
Yeah, if you look at the ALG spreadsheet, which
is it just a typo?
Just a quick correction, so the 63 is their operating budget without the debt in it, so the figures that Christine just mentioned is the total assessment, so that is the total bill to the town.
The total bill of the town.
I'm good.
The revised debt is $2,906,270.
Which is down from what's on the ALG spreadsheet. With the whole numbers.
Yeah, so the ALG spreadsheet, Brian, needs to be corrected.
That's what he handed out.
Yeah, the,
So if you refer to Dave Rodolino's email is correct with the corresponding ALG spreadsheet, those numbers match.
okay.
That's why I sent those
I just
out.
looked at the one, the warrant has to be corrected.
They will, yeah,
Yeah, the
Cross
Okay,
summary needs to be corrected.
it does.
so it's been moved and seconded.
I would like to,
Yeah, sure.
I would like to once again express my dismay at the school committee having decided at this specific time to lower the tuition on all-day kindergarten. The amount that they took out, first of all, they paid for it out of E&D, which is not sustainable. They're moving even further back towards using E&D for operating expenses when we have very nicely gotten the town to move away from that. They're using it at an extremely unsustainable rate. is a good way towards one of the firemen that this town needs. And I understand why they're thinking of it in their little silo, but even though it's a tiny portion of the school budget, it could make some significant benefit to Acton's overall budget.
Noted. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? That passes. As recommended. CPC, we've already done.
We did him and last time.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
Article number 9, real property disposition at 3 School Street.
Yeah, we pushed it.
Yeah, that's mine. Unfortunately, I exchanged some emails with the town manager, but I don't have an update from last meeting, which was they had received an RFP with one bid on it for that property, and they had not reviewed it at that point. And that was over a week ago, so I'll follow up again before.
John, do you have, or Dave, do you guys have any update on that?
We're dealing with it on Monday night.
Okay. So, what's your recommendation then, Mr.?
I just hold off until we have more information. I don't have anything more than what's written in the warrant to this afternoon.
Would be deferred.
That would be defer.
Sorry.
Yeah, why don't you make a motion to defer?
I make a motion, we defer article number 9, real property disposition, 3 School Street.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Article is deferred. Article 10, lease authorization of 1921 Maple Street.
This is my article, sorry, it's on the numbers. This is the home rule petition. No, I thought we approved number 10.
I think we approved 10, not 11.
Yes, that's what I have down.
Oh,
We approved the lease, we did
I'm
not.
sorry, yeah, it says this article will possibly be removed, so
Okay.
I
We did-
saw that way.
we
I have
did-
it just the opposite.
We did not approve the use of these proceeds.
We approved
Yeah,
11
the
and
numbers
not
are
10.
Yes, we did.
Unless
Yeah.
there's,
from last week.
Yeah, they
It's
changed
always
the
a
numbers.
possibility.
oh, yeah, they flipped them. No, they flipped them, yeah. 11
Approved them
became 10.
leasing out the Maple
You
Street
always-
property
Yep,
or using the leased off set debt.
yes, we recommended
Article 11,
We always used to use letters until the file.
so.
We recommended the authorization of the
Yeah.
lease. We didn't vote on Article 11.
it. Limit
You know
yourself
what,
to
we would
20.
wait.
Right,
Don't
and
go
now-
down, we would wait
26
for that.
stuff.
The clerk speaks.
We would go AIDB.
We recommended the lease article, but not the home rule petition, in part because there was no language for that article. We just got it and I haven't had a chance to read it. But the basic gist is that it would allow the town to use money from leasing to pay off the debt.
Okay,
Is there anything else, maybe that we should know about that article?
Board of Selectmen still not taking a position?
No, I think we want a little bit of more information as well. This basically, if we don't have permission to lease the building, we're gonna have to kick the ambulance service out as of July 1st.
Okay.
So the agreement when we purchased the property a year ago was that Mr. Richards maintained control of the buildings for a year after the purchase. And so they've been leasing from him as part of that agreement. But if we don't have permission to lease, we'll have to kick them out. And so or if we wanna do anything else with that building, for example, there are a couple committees looking into what could be done there. Could there be a coffee shop there? Would a business be interested in being there? Whatever, we know very little at this point, which is why, it's just kind of open-ended, but maybe a town department wants to use the building. We don't know that yet. But so the only concrete thing is that the ambulance service is there, and if we don't have permission. If we can't be a landlord, we can't keep it.
We have recommended permission to lease. I think our questions and the language was not filled in fully on using the lease proceeds to pay off the debt. Is that as straightforward as it seems?
Yeah, yes, and actually, it could either be directly, or it could just go into the parking, enterprise fund, which is what pays off the debt, which also what pays to plow the train station parking lots and et cetera. So, but it could also go directly to the debt, and that's, I think, the current wording. I was hoping actually it would be a little bit more general so that there would be a little bit more flexibility just to pay it into the enterprise fund and then it goes out of the enterprise fund, but it can go directly to the debt as well.
But it would be the enterprise fund, not general.
Sorry?
It would be into the enterprise fund, not into the general fund.
That's correct. In either case, it would be to, one of the problems with the language that I have in, if it just goes to pay off the debt, is when the debt is retired, and we still have a tenant there, do we just give the bank back more money, or, you know, so I would prefer that it just go into the enterprise fund, but that's, where things stand now is what you see.
The board has not voted on it though.
No, right? We have not voted on that.
We had deferred on it.
Yes, that's right. So we will vote on it Monday.
Yeah, well, the difference is this is our last shot at the warrant and Monday's
Right,
yours, so I'm not comfortable recommending something they haven't recommended.
Right, I mean, you could do just before town meeting. or
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay, so do I have a motion?
I'd move to defer.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Carried. Motion deferred. Articles deferred, sorry. Next one.
Article 12 is fund collective bargaining agreements. Again, there's been no update on this, so at this point I'd say move to defer.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor to defer, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Article is deferred. Next article, budget transfers, shown consent. Any discussion on this, any,
The board has deferred it.
Yeah.
to that? Do we have a motion on this one?
It's yours.
It's mine. Oh, yeah, great, sorry.
So go ahead.
Since the board of selectmen has deferred, I motion that we defer as well.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. Looking, we've already done. Yes,
You know, going back to the Free School Street, you said we were discussing it on Monday, but it does have recommended from the Board of Selectmen. Is that final, the recommendation?
No, we,
on which one are you talking about?
Sorry, the Free School Street disposition of property.
Did you
Number
read the
9.
one?
Number
it
9.
says recommended, but we were taking it back up again.
I see, okay, all right, thank you.
Because I think there was, what came in was not accepted.
Okay, great.
Who has Article 15, fireman's relief?
I do. So what this is the first step of what will probably be a fairly long legal process of amending the trust document for the fireman relief fund. So before they can file with the probate court to get the trust amended, the town meeting will have to approve that they're making changes. And the reason they want to make changes is if you read through the language, it was very fixed in terms of amounts that they could pay out for anything and who they could pay out, and the trustees are looking for some flexibility in terms of what they can do in the future to not be tied into the exact amounts that were memorialized in the trust agreement when it was written. So it doesn't really have much of a financial impact. It doesn't have any financial impact on the taxpayers. It's a self-funded program. So I move we recommend Article What is it now?
15.
15
Firefighters relief.
firefighters relief.
Second.
Any further discussion?
Just to be clear, there could be no dependency on the town in any
No,
sense, right?
no.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Excellent. Article 16, commuter lot station maintenance.
Looks like we already recommended it.
We recommended it, Board of Selectmen hasn't done anything.
Mr. Chairman, I have an update there. The new, there are actually new numbers in the warrant, so they had changed from last time. So we had not had an expense in there, so we had to add that. So I just think you need to relook at that. I just
Okay.
want to bring it to your attention.
So the expense that you have in there is the budgeted expense for FY '20 and the budgeted expense for FY '21.
Yeah, so the budget expense of FY '21, the 129,207 is the correct number now.
What was it before?
I'm not sure.
Okay,
Is this one where
About
John had?
76.
I think it didn't include the lease agreement.
but also it looks like the budgeted expense for FY '20 went from 230,900 to 76,900. And the budget expense for FY '21 went from 76,900 to 129,207.
And the revenues should be changed as well, I believe. So, right,
Yeah, here.
one of the prior.
Is that the last one?
This is the previous one.
Okay, so the previous one,
No, that was right, that would be 2 ago.
3.3.
Okay.
So this is last week's. So I'm gonna run down the numbers. Fund balance hasn't changed from 6/30/19 to 298, 676. Budget revenue for FY '20 went from 304,300 to 378,252. Budget expense FY '20 went from 230,900 to 76,900. Then we had transfer to transportation of 121,000, leaving you with an estimated fund balance on 6/30 of this year at 479,028 from 372,076. The next year, budget revenues remained the same at 378,252, but the budget expense went from 76,900 to 129,207, and debt service of the 19 to 21 Maple Street at 73,937. Transfer to transportation 160. The debt service 1921 Maple Street went from 47,250 to 73,937, leaving with the estimated fund balance at the end of 494,136. Can you explain some of those differences?
I think the bulk of it, well, it's a complex model to begin with. I mean, it's a special revenue fund, and I think there was just some confusion in how the transfer out to the transportation fund versus the expenses relative to the operations. There was some confusion on how that should be handled, and we didn't have all the expense in there. So we only had normal operating expenses. There was additional expenses that were put into the 5-year plan that were never captured in that prior warrant.
Okay,
That's
so-
the big change.
Yeah, one of them I'm looking at is like the debt service went from 47,250 to 73.
Yeah, I think that's where part of the confusion was. I think the revenue generated was 42, but the debt service was 73. But I think that number's gonna settle down anyhow once we go out to the bond market, which will be next Tuesday, I believe. No, is it next Tuesday? I'm sorry, it's not next Tuesday, but
This morning when it was
it's,
nice
I
and
know.
low. And then it looks like
only go up.
the budget expense this year was higher than,
It is, it's definitely higher than last year.
because this year you had 230,900 in the original article, now
No.
76,000.
Yeah, there's some additional expenses in here.
That were in there previously, they're not there now.
Yeah, last year came in significantly under.
This may help. I brought a 5-year plan. It may help to show some of the difference. We also have bike share expenses in here and some other capital improvements that went in last year. Let me just pass this out. This may help.
Thank you.
Well, Mike and I can share.
At the end of the day, the fund balance is up
Yeah.
30-something thousand.
I think so.
So Brian I'm sorry, in the current draft warrant article, it has the fiscal year 20 budgeted expenses 76,900, which is nowhere close to what you have it on the paper you just handed us.
Yeah, so that was let's see, oh, wow. So the FY 20 numbers changed once town meeting authorized the expense, so we changed the numbers in FY 20. So what you saw in the previous warrant will not match the expense column in FY 20 here because it was subsequent to the town meeting approving it. So when we went to town meeting, it was pre-approving the article, and then once they approved it, it's post. So it did change the numbers. So when you went to town meeting, for FY 20, subsequent to that, we put in additional expenditures for debt service of $33,000, which was actually in the article itself, and so we added it to the plan subsequent to that. And then the 79 would be the 59,870, and I believe in the 17,000. I think that hits that 70 or 76,9. I think it's those two numbers. It's those two numbers. So the 59,820 for maintenance and utilities, and the service fees for banking. That's the 76,9 from last year. The 121 is a transfer out, just like you see with the 160 this year. And then that 33 again was subsequently added because it was in the article, but we actually want to show the expense in the model for comparison purposes.
With the model, you have an ending balance of 461, 136, and in the article, you have 494, 136.
So I know we went through this all last week, so I know what's in the motion I'm quite sure is correct. So if you have, and I don't have my, hang on a minute. Let me see if I can quickly do the math.
Could be one of those. The difference between this and that is these.
Yeah, the Jones scale is off.
I'm just trying to hit that 363,
So,
144.
I'm looking at like the Jones Field parking program. They give 36 spots at $100, and in the annual revenue, 43,200.
Yeah, so the math works. So if you look for FY 20, if you look at the budgeted expense, it's 129,207. You add the debt service of 73,937, and
Whoa, we don't see. Okay, so you look at the article.
so you look at the article.
The budget expense is 129,207.
Yep. Then you have the debt service of 73,937.
Yep.
And then you have the transfer to transportation on the 5-year plan that shows as an expenditure. That's 160. That hits your total expense line of the 363, 144. So that math works.
363, but we have 494, 136.
That's your ending fund balance after you settle up on the year.
Okay.
So if you look at the top, you're generating $378,000 of revenue. Your expense is 363. You're adding that delta to the prior year's certified fund balance.
Okay.
The math works.
Yeah, on this, there's a typo. Jones Field has 36 at 100 does not equal 43,200.
Yeah, they were estimates.
$100 a month.
$100 a month?
Yeah, those are new voted rates, David, from last year, right, last summer, July.
So Jones
Or
Field,
September,
Jones
whatever it
Field is
was.
a monthly rate versus
They do.
the other one, yeah, some kind of disclaimer on the side where they're doing that, but anyway, alright.
So, you know what, I think the main difference is we have two ending balances at FY '20. So we're starting the year with a different number. In the warrant, it says 6/30/20 ended at 479,028, but this has it at 446,028. That's the same difference that we have at the end of '21.
Yeah, 21, you're adding a little bit, because your revenues are outpacing your expenses. So you're adding a little bit to fund balance.
Yep. But we're starting with a bad number on the sheet is the problem.
Does it not match this?
Correct.
Yeah, because it doesn't do all this math. Yeah.
But that's why these don't
That's,
flip.
yeah, that's, yeah.
The question I have on this is, oh, okay, I get it.
And this particular fund is a little different than your enterprise funds, because enterprise funds are certified by the state, so it's an actual snapshot in time. This fund balance is ever changing, so it's not like you have a certification of your fund balance.
This one doesn't go through a state certification process then?
That's correct. It's a special revenue fund.
Oh, okay.
So I have a concern about the items, the way they're written on the article, because the budgeted expense for fiscal year 20 versus 21 don't include the same line items. As an example, fiscal year 20 budgeted expense includes the line items maintenance and service fees, those two line items. If you did the same for fiscal year 21, you would not come up with the 129,207. It would be roughly 88,000,
No, you have to add in 50,000,
78,000. So then why isn't that added into the fiscal year 20?
because they're not in fiscal year 20. It's the last two
Oh, it's a
lines.
new line item.
Yeah,
That's what I missed.
It is, yeah.
Thank you.
just figured that one.
Okay, so I think we should.
Did you
revote.
explain that 3 times?
This
And
is,
I
like I
finally
said,
got it
this
the third time.
model is pretty complicated. There's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah, I think next year, what I'd like to see is have an estimated fund balance at the end of 6/30, and then have beginning fund balance on the following year, and then go do the math out across from that. If that can be accommodated, I think that might be good.
We'll be happy to take suggestions to make this simpler.
So,
The only other question I would have on this, Roland, is why the debt service more than doubled between 20 and 21?
because from what I understand, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't gone to bond on that, on the Maple Street project. We have what they call on the street called BANs, bond anticipation notes, that are sitting out there, and then once they finally get enough projects to go to bond, they bond, because every time you do bond, what does it cost, 25 to 50 grand or something like that?
About 50,000.
Well, 50,000 float a bond, so you're not gonna float a bond for 3 million and pay 50 grand.
Right.
You're gonna wait till you get a bunch of them together and then do bond anticipation notes in between, get a whole project, say up 100 million or 60 million, and you float it from one price at 50, you can spread it over all those bonds versus that one bond.
Okay, and so you feel comfortable that the correct amount is being allocated to the Maple Street project at 73,000 versus 33?
What it says here in the notes, Brian, is that the 33,000 is, my understanding is that that's interest only.
Correct.
So the increase then up to 73.
78 or whatever the number is.
74,000.
74,
Makes a lot
yep.
more sense.
Okay, got it.
Because presumably that also will include principal.
Yep.
Thank you.
So I think you have to think of it this way, is on the bond anticipation, it's like having an interest-only mortgage on a house or a piece of property. You're a contractor, you're flipping the property, you're not gonna wanna take out and pay principal down. You wanna just pay the interest and then go and flip it right away and take your money and walk, and you pay less money.
Great, thank
The
you.
3% on 1.1 million is the 33,000, and then the 74 is the full amortization schedule, interest plus the principal payment.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah.
I feel comfortable with it. So, I think we should probably revote the article based on the new numbers.
Given the confusion I had and Adam had about this, would it be possible in fiscal 20 to add a box for the debt service? That's where the numbers across the 2 years don't line up.
Add a box for the
For
section above, just for comparison purposes, is
Yes.
that what you want?
maybe that raises more questions, but it's what makes the lines not comparable. You can't just compare them to each other.
Yeah, and I think also too is we want to have a fund balance. So this one they had a fund balance of 6/30/19, then you have an ending fund balance, maybe we should have the ending fund balance of the next line saying fund balance as of 7/1/21, ending fund balance, you know, kind of show the progression across, I guess. Just make it a little clearer, it doesn't,
Each line would be a picture of the year.
yeah. So I'll entertain any motion?
Do we need to move to reconsider?
Yeah.
I think
No. If the amounts change, we can revote
we
it.
can just revote it.
Yeah.
So would you like to make the motion?
It's your article,
Mr.
right?
W.
I think I'm clear, I'll have to make a motion.
Well enough.
Just about the warrant, you might even go the other way, as I was thinking, is if you simplify it more, because if you do that apples to apples comparison, it's gonna beg so many questions that people are gonna wonder about, and they're gonna, I think it's good we discuss it. By the town meeting, it may be less useful to have people wondering what's the difference between a ban and, you know, an amortizing loan versus a non-interest only loan or whatever.
Could get you or Adam up there to explain that.
Yeah.
Would your recommendation then to be, do you want me to add another line for debt service, or take the debt service and add it into the budgeted
Well, that's what I was
expense?
thinking.
Just to simplify
If
it.
you did that.
Less numbers.
Or whatever we kind of think is appropriate, but just simplifying it. You're still gonna have, then you could just talk in generalities and say, or whoever, the board of selectmen, Joan could talk in generalities about it, and just say, you know, there's some new projects, bike sharing, capital improvements, et cetera, there's the changing debt service, and everybody will shrug their shoulders and move on.
I like that idea, I think, of combining debt into the expenses.
Do it
in a new year, and then just put a statement in the summary even,
Yeah.
that it's for the new debt service.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Steve?
Sure.
Sign on.
Somebody move.
Agreed.
Okay, so,
I move we recommend Article 16 as motioned in the warrant article and as updated with whatever
Second.
cosmetic sort of changes.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, motion passed. Article passes, recommended again. Transfer of septic, we've done that. Let's see what we have left. Oh, we're really flying tonight.
We got up to title
Right?
chief executives,
Ah,
up to Tuesday.
changing his title already? Who was that one?
Mr. Majors.
Who?
Mike.
That's mine. What one is this?
23.
The select board,
Oh, that was the select board, I thought it was the town manager.
Yeah. Well, yeah, well, this is the, since it has no, perceivable, financial impact, and they're doing the change to, it's intended to modernize the charter by adopting a non-gendered term where possible, reflecting the importance of diversity and the town's commitment to being an inclusive community and encourages engagement by all residents. So, they're recommending to change the Board of Selectmen to Select Board and change the name of the board members from selectmen to members. And it would have no impact on their current roles.
Can I suggest we take no recommendation on this article as it is not in our purview in any way, shape, or form?
I would agree, it has no financial impact.
are we sure?
Well,
I think
we're gonna have to pay some lawyers some money to go through this thing. I don't know how much, but
Do we need to change all the signs or anything else that would have, or I can't imagine this has a significant financial impact.
can I direct the question to one of the selectmen, whatever they are, members?
Yeah, they're still selectmen for another year.
So,
Do we have an estimate of what the legal cost would be?
so I don't have an estimate of the legal cost, but town council told us it was a little more than a search replace. So she said there is no specific appropriation for this. It's just in the normal legal fees for the town. So, Christie, to your point, there's no, all the letterhead is in a template, right? And so, there's no stacks of paper in the back of the town hall, so, there is no appreciable cost.
Do we have a sense of the other towns in the state? Are we ahead of the curve here, behind the curve, or?
We're approaching being behind. So there are 312 towns in the Commonwealth, 91 of which, as of January, had called their select boards, including Concord and Foxborough. I don't know about our other neighboring towns, but at least those two have already made the change. I would personally prefer that we not be the last one in the Commonwealth to change. It's an anachronistic term. It needs to change.
I think in the spirit of diversity and inclusivity, we should recommend this article.
There's a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained?
Select board uses less ink than board of selectmen as well.
Sure does. Dogs cost money, Dave.
Well put.
Approved.
You may laugh, but there's actually been a study done on font size and stuff like that, and all this stuff you print out and.
Are there any other alternatives? Select board? Or people,
No.
select people?
Go easy on this. There's general agreement on the term select board, where towns torture themselves is, how do you call the members? Select man, select woman, and if
Person.
somebody doesn't want to identify with either, how do you call that? So the most gender neutral term is member, so they're referred to as select board members. And just a piece of history, I mean, this is the 100th anniversary of the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, giving women the right to vote. When you're sitting up in 204 and looking out at the audience, there's a balcony up there. I mean, I don't know what goes on it, but at one time, that was where women sat to attend town meeting because they couldn't vote.
Interesting.
So we've come a long way, and let's finish it off.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Thanks, Your Eminence.
Alright, 24 is Jason.
Yeah, so,
You want me to read it?
I'd like you to read that, it'd be great.
Alright. This is Weatherby zoning change, Jason's words. This could result in more housing as the FAR can be changed. This is not as straightforward as one might think. The parcel is already in an affordable housing overlay district. This means that if we do not authorize this change, then with a special permit, up to 5 units per acre with an affordable restriction can be allowed. If we make this change and it is not developed for business purposes, but is instead developed for housing purposes, the FAR does change to 0.2 and is approximately 4 times as dense as single-family zoning. Furthermore, the proponent of this did not show up to the public hearing and was given an opportunity to write up the summary in the warrant. He declined. Since he did not show up and has not provided us with a clear plan, I have to assume the worst-case scenario. As a result, I would be making a motion to not recommend if I were able to be here tonight to discuss.
Planning board did no recommendation.
So it's my understanding that the developer, Teamworks, wanted to put a soccer field there, not housing, and then you're saying he didn't show up at the hearing.
This is what Jason's research concluded. I don't know if the Board of Select people have further details.
They're members, not people.
I really wasn't trying to be snarky.
Submitted the citizens petition will be appearing before us on Monday night. So you might want to defer on the article and deal with it at your pre-town meeting.
So moved.
I would just like to add a little bit to this, that, having read a lot about the zoning when we were looking at the sewer potential change in West Acton, the purpose of the high density development possible under these village zonings was the idea that you would have people focused in a walkable village area. There isn't anything like that here in East Acton. If you look at the lots that are falling into the, EAV and the EAV2, that's not creating that sort of environment. So there, I don't think the special interests that we had in developing a village are applicable here.
Can I ask a question as sort of preamble to your discussion Monday night? Is that the only way that that developer can get appropriate zoning to put a soccer field there?
I'm not clear on it.
Okay. Huh. And that, do you know if that's the reason for the ask?
I've got to get more familiar with it.
Great. We'll wait till Monday.
I do know there is a building on there right now, so it has to be, if they're gonna put soccer fields, it's gonna have to come down. So the building looks like it's gonna fall down.
Yeah.
Just leave it there.
Is that
That might be helpful if I
part of the state troopers, horse barn?
That's further down, because if you look at here, the state, they're down to Concord, they're not in the town.
This is
Yeah, they're in Concord.
Which is further down beyond that property.
Yeah.
this looks like an old industrial building, it's got stacks of paper up to the ceiling.
Yeah. It's a flat top, very square. Looks like an office building for like an
Actually,
industrial
I
type
visited one of
business.
those buildings the other day as a welder there. We talked about park benches. And yeah, just past the rail trail is another industrial building. There's some kind of activity going on.
That's, yeah, right where it is.
Alright, given that it sounds like we will be getting some more updates on this, I move that we defer.
Second.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor to defer, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Article 24, Acton, amend zoning map 32 Weatherby Street, and defer. Zoning map 525 Main Street.
This is also Jason. Right, this is the Russian Global map, okay, shorter one. There is no risk of the changes here resulting in more housing, and the current owner has a clear plan for what he wants to do, which will increase his business, and is something the town desires, namely the lessening of traffic on a main thoroughfare. Furthermore, the owner has a history of conforming to town regulations and is reactive on the rare occasion that something has to be brought to his attention. On behalf of Jason, I move to recommend.
Second.
Further discussion? All those who vote to recommend, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Article 25 is recommended. Article 26, amend zoning bylaw electric vehicle charging station in parking lots.
So this is mine. I move to make a motion to recommend this article.
Okay?
Second?
Any discussion?
I wanna make sure I understand this. What this says to me is if anyone builds a new parking lot,
Yes.
these are the guidelines for how many electric charging stations they need to put in.
Yeah.
That includes the town, I believe.
The town is
I don't
putting
know.
in we have 2 currently, and I think 4 more are going into the train station, and which will also be free, but the users have to pay a metered parking of $6 per day, which will cover what we were discussing last week about the electricity charge and stuff. So this is a way for the town to go towards carbon neutrality, and I don't see why we should just recommend this.
I'd like to see one additional, we put it in the library for residents too, but, alright.
Are there any sort of state guidelines, or like how do these ratios conform to what other towns do? Do you have a sense of that?
David?
So two things. The town is putting 2 more in the town hall parking lot.
Oh, yeah.
So that's separate from this. I think the town is actually exempt from zoning regulations, so, but,
No, they still gotta go away zoning regulations, they might be exempt from fees to do it, but they still have to go by zoning regulations
okay.
under the
So,
zoning bylaws.
and these came from a comparison the town manager did with other towns that had taken this action. So there are a lot of towns in the Commonwealth do have no regulation, but he found some that had a regulation that required charging stations, and this is modeled after some of them. Actually, I think it could be more aggressive for residents residence development, so if we have a new apartment complex, because people wanna charge where they live, but this is a good start, I think.
So in the municipal lots, the town does not charge for the electricity generated?
So the ones at town hall, we do charge, and I believe we only charge after 45 minutes. We charge 2 cents a minute after 45 minutes. The board is going to be taking a look at those fees because they've been in place for a while to see whether we might want to adjust them. Right now, right now, some people come and charge for 45 minutes and leave. So the town manager suggested that the board might want to take a look at these, and I think it's coming in an upcoming board meeting. But right now, I think we make a teeny bit of money. Basically, it's break even on.
It does cover the cost.
It does cover
Yeah.
electricity
So
costs.
from
Right.
the board's knowledge, how does that work now? I see they had charging stations out there. I know you have an electric vehicle. You plug in, but do you have to slide a credit card into it?
No, you're a member of a network. In that case, it's a network called ChargePoint, which is a company that is the network. It's a private company, and they have ways you can look up a charging station if you're in another town, and so you can look up a ChargePoint and you just wave your ChargePoint card in front, and it fills your account.
So when you buy an electric vehicle, you're gonna contact ChargePoint to get on their program.
Yeah, and your first card is free. If you want more than one card, I think they're $5 to get another card, and then you keep a credit card balance in, and when you charge, it deducts from your credit card balance and refills if you set it up that way.
There are a couple other companies, not just ChargePoint.
Yeah, there's another one, EVgo.
Yeah.
So is the one at the town hall, is that only ChargePoint?
It's only ChargePoint. And now the ones at the train station are free, but it's we made a decision at that time that they're actually paid for out of the parking revenue. So you pay.
Everyone pays.
What is not paid
we
for
don't
by
charge
parking
electric
revenue?
vehicles any more than anybody else. It's a metered space. Even if you're a town resident, you have to pay the meter fee, which is $6 a day. But that includes the electricity while you charge. Which, if you have the biggest electric vehicles, it could actually be more than $10 worth of electricity, but not much more.
Now, does this change to the zoning bylaw limit them from putting in more electric charging stations if they wanted to?
No, it just requires a minimum.
Okay.
And one other thing, it also, in addition to new lots, if a significant revamp of a property would also trigger this. So let's say someone bought the Kmart property and put in a big retail thing with multiple stores. That's a significant revamp would trigger an update to the zoning regulations. If a company just moved into the existing building and kept the existing parking lot unchanged, they wouldn't have to update anything. But if they did if they updated the building, they'd have to do something.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend.
Yes.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion is recommended. 27, amend general bylaws, the consumption of alcoholic beverages.
Yeah, that's mine. I'm generally in favor of the consumption of alcoholic beverages, as I believe most of this committee is. However, this is about specifically, it's more of a housekeeping issue. Right now, our bylaw excludes consumption on the town common, which I believe cannot even be subject to a one-day liquor license. So this language change simply allows the Board of Selectmen to issue a one-day liquor license basically anywhere in town, no exceptions. I don't know how much drinking was being done on the town common before.
Forced drop, I don't know. All right, do we have a recommendation?
I move recommend Article
27?
27, one-day liquor license, public property.
Do I have a second? Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Article is recommended. Article number 28, amend general bylaws for animal control bylaw violation.
I think that's just mine, although it's kind of vague here. It looks like they're just going to have, they want to, I don't know if the bylaw is written yet, but they want to put in a sliding scale for repeat offenders. I'm not sure what the fine is now, but if you keep taking advantage of the system and keep getting caught, they want to make it more painful.
Like that.
Do we know if this language will be in before town meeting?
It has to.
Right, okay, so let me rephrase. When will this language be in?
So I don't know if John knows differently, but I'm expecting that we'll vote on this on Monday, so I don't know.
Yeah, we deferred on it till Monday night.
So I'm expecting the language on Monday. And I know from dog cases that, you know, the initial fine is actually pretty low if your dog gets out and threatens somebody. And, you know, if you don't repair your fence and your dog gets out and again, it's keep threatening the people across the street or down the street. That's the motivation for this. But the wording is not there.
Thanks.
Right.
It's a good motion.
Jim, hold on.
I'm not voting if there isn't actual wording. This goes beyond my willing to list to let things slide.
In principle,
I
I'm supportive,
move
but.
that
Right?
I move we defer.
Second.
I'll vote for that.
So, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? So it's been, motion to defer. All those in favor of defer, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Article 29, accept legislation, statutory speed limits in regulatory safety zones.
Alright, this is Jason again. This gives the Board of Selectmen more power, but also allows for faster, cheaper changes. This allows for more local control. The Board of Selectmen has not come to the town staff with any recommendations yet, so this may be more or less just housekeeping. The financial impact on this is that we do not have to go to the state, potentially saving money in traffic studies, to make changes that are locally desirable. And Jason, on behalf of Jason, I move to recommend.
Second.
Let it show that the Board of Selectmen did recommend this article.
Is that true that we wouldn't need traffic studies to change speed limit?
I'm thinking we would on a state road, but
Well,
otherwise
like
maybe
27.
not.
So
State road.
two things. I believe that we still can't do this on state roads, so that's 2A and 111.
Yeah.
27 is not
Yeah,
a
it's
state
not.
road. And I'm not completely clear myself on what the how a safety zone is constituted. So so it accepts the state law, but we would have to do further investigation. One of the things that I do completely understand is that what the town of Concord does now. If you're in the town of Concord, you see there are signs that says the speed limit is 25 miles an hour unless otherwise posted. So that allows one of the provisions of the new state law allows us to do that. So any back road that's not marked would be anything we wanted to be 25, 30, whatever the board would set it to, or not if the board never decides to do it. So.
Thank you.
So we have a motion
Yes.
to recommend. Article 29, accept legislation, statutory speed limits and regulatory safety zones. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor to recommend, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion to recommend Article 29.
Alcohol and speeding.
Maybe that should be moved to opposite
Good,
ends.
right? It's a good meeting.
Article 30, accept legislation for Saturday office hours.
That should sound familiar. It's you.
Why not? See, the town will vote to accept the provisions of Massachusetts General Law, Section 110, or take any action thereto. So, from what I understand, if the town is closed, remain closed. So, there are certain provisions in laws that says if it's a holiday on Monday, you have to open up on Saturday to meet deadlines. This would say, okay, or if the deadline fell on a weekend. This says, no, we will not open up on a weekend to do that. We can take it up on the next business day. so thus saving the town money, saving town staff enough to come in, open the town hall, and they said they get very little turnout for something like this, like voter registration, et cetera, on a Saturday, so. My recommendation is that we recommend.
Second.
Will save the town money.
Second?
Now, do you know if this is like the schools where if you have to open the school, like if we have a snow day and the school week runs over at the end of the year to a Monday, it's some fixed cost? It's a large fixed cost opening up the schools. Is it similar with town hall?
Yeah, you're gonna pay your staff to come in, whoever has to be there, to open the town hall, run the lights, et cetera. Whereas Monday, or the next business day, they're gonna be there anyway. So, yeah.
But it's like the whole building is open, it's not just that one area.
Yeah, they have to open everything up. It might just be the clerk's office and on the other side of the floor would be open, but still then you gotta open the building, heat the building, et cetera.
Possibly janitorial.
Possibly janitorial as well.
If it's open on a Saturday, just for me to go pay my fine because my dog bit the mailman.
For the third time.
Because he was speeding after drinking on the town common.
I'm going 30 miles an hour.
So we have a moved and seconded to recommend the article. Any further discussion? All those in favor to recommend, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion to recommend Article 30. I'm sure I'll probably say some maybe a little more eloquent at town meeting, like, I recommend.
Finance committee recommends.
Article 31, amend zoning bylaw housekeeping corrections for personal wireless facility.
Alright, this is Jason.
Jeez. Does
Jason's,
he have a note from his doctor, or what the heck?
I know.
he got stuck on an extra day of work out of state the day after his company told him no more travel. He is planning to break that rule and travel home,
He can never come back.
right?
That's right.
But his response to this is a housekeeping thing, no problem. Move to recommend. That's all I have.
Planning board recommended it, so I don't have a problem seconding it.
It's a name change.
Yeah.
So,
I can give you more details if you want.
Sure.
yeah,
I
why
think
not?
it's self-explanatory.
Just
My
do a
husband
discussion.
does ham radio, and he used to work in cell phones, so I thought he might like this. He looked at it and said it's actually about where you can put cell towers in the related buildings. The idea that you're trying to keep those densely together, not have them be stuck in the middle of residential neighborhoods. That's the purpose of this section of the zoning bylaw. This is just correcting a few words. I found a few more places where Adam found a few more places where the changes need to be made. We'll get that put in here too.
All right.
Alright.
Alright, so we have it's been moved and seconded to recommend Article 31, amend zoning bylaw housekeeping corrections, personal wireless facilities. All those in favor to recommend, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Article is recommended. Article 32,
It belongs to me.
excellent.
This is to give the town authorization to get an easement at 127 Strawberry Hill for a sidewalk project that is going on Strawberry Hill, which has been presented before the Board of Selectmen and they approved it. My only concern about this article is that there's a ... highlighted in the middle of it and it's
There
missing
is.
some explanation. So I'm happy to recommend it pending any concerns over what's missing.
It was deferred.
Shall we defer it then?
I think we don't have the full warrant article, I think we should defer.
Great.
You have the motion.
Oh,
No, the motion, well, yeah.
No one's made a motion.
No,
He's
No,
saying
there's a
not
motion written here, but
As set forth in the article, but the article contains an
All right,
ellipsis.
well, wait. It's a very dangerous corner there if people are not familiar with it.
that is,
That was the purpose of the easement.
why is it?
But do you know, yeah,
What's the
I
dot?
don't know
What's
why
the?
the dot,
It
dot,
says
dot.
purposes of, and I would think the purpose.
ran out of time.
It's
Saving
probably
lives.
safety.
Yeah, I would think public safety, but
So I move that we defer this until we get clarification.
second.
okay, all those in favor to defer, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained?
So shall it be
Well,
my,
that's a big parcel of land right there too.
so is it my responsibility to chase down the ...
Yes, please.
If you can catch it, let us know.
We will vote at town meeting.
Yeah,
Prior to town meeting, we'll vote.
we'll get together just before the first night of town meeting, and they should have it filled in by then. So, I don't know how much chasing you'll have to do, Adam.
This next bunch of articles are mine. And rereading this first one for the first time in a while, it occurred to me, maybe I don't understand it.
It won't be long.
As I understand, it says that the town can hear reports at town meeting. I presume it's at the next town meeting? Because this is at the end of town meeting that we will have given permission for reports to be presented.
So this is saying that we can hear reports of any committee chosen at any previous town meeting that is not already reported at this town meeting.
There's nothing anyone would possibly report about at this point in the voting process, in the voting process.
That's
So
what I said.
I'm confused about why it's here. If this is important, shouldn't it be way back at the beginning? Or do I completely misunderstand? Or slightly misunderstand?
But
Does anyone know?
one of the illustrious board of select people, maybe,
It's a housekeeping article. It's for any standing committees that have been appointed either by town meeting or the select board to file reports.
In general?
I don't think there are any that.
yeah, it's not like, I agree with you, I don't know what the placement of the room.
Yeah, why don't you just get in touch with Joan
Okay.
and clear that up? But it's basically just committees that were appointed by the town meeting or by the selectmen, and it's for the annual town report that comes out really like it's a year in advance, a year behind.
Oh, okay, it's for the town report, not
Yeah,
for
right.
at town meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, in that case, I'm comfortable.
Okay. Make a motion.
Yes, I move that we recommend the article about hearing and accepting reports.
Second.
All those in favor? Any further discussion? All those in favor to recommend Article 33, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Good.
Article 34 allows the Board of Selectmen to get easements, to accept easements in whatever form they're given, whether they're bought or given or abandoned. So they need permission if this is sure.
Okay.
I move we recommend Article 34, the authorization of easements.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Further discussion?
I do have just a
Yeah.
question.
Sure, sorry.
If they were to acquire it by purchase, which is one of the options, where would those funds come from?
If there are actually specific articles for various easements.
Mhm.
This is just a general, if
An
someone wants to give
overriding.
it.
Okay, it does say purchase.
Yeah.
but-
This is just a blanket. Do you, either one of you have anything further?
So I have a question. When, you say eminent domain, so all these other things that's written up here, will this hold good for, the Kelly's Corner thing too?
Dick can maybe speak to this is just a high level saying that easements can happen. That we need to give the town every year permission to accept things in this way. Easements, according to the state, are one of these specific things we need to get permission for.
So I do know one of the common places we do easements is for sidewalks. We've never taken land, as far as I know, for sidewalks. We've always negotiated for an easement. Most of the times, I believe the easements are just granted. It's possible sometimes somewhere that one of these was paid for, I don't know. But if so, it would be paid for out of the sidewalk construction funds. That's just one example. The DPW also does drainage projects through the year where there's a problem in the streets or whatever, and they might need an easement for that and have to negotiate with a nearby operating.
I'm good.
So we have it moved and seconded to recommend Article 34. Any further discussion? Dave?
Mr. Chairman, would it be worth considering all the remaining articles together?
I'd be happy with that with the exception of whether Christine cares.
No, I don't. That works for me too.
I will be happy to take that up. So the other one will be the 35, the Highway Reimbursement Program, Chapter 70, insurance proceeds.
These all give
Gifts and grants.
the town and the Board of Selectmen the ability to receive things of value.
These are all standard articles that appear on every town meeting because these things have to be reauthorized every year by town meeting. They don't carry over from one year to the next.
So then do you
If that's
want-
proper, that's okay, otherwise I think we could approve them individually in about 2 minutes.
Well, the
Whatever works.
town meeting's gonna approve them all as a group, I can
Are
tell
they?
you that.
They do, yeah.
They'll be
Yeah.
proposed as a group.
They're all
then,
consent.
yeah.
So,
I'd be tired at that point.
so then, I have a motion then
Well,
We have
to
an
withdraw.
open motion.
You wanna withdraw your,
Well, 34.
on 34.
Yes.
yes,
So why don't we go 34 and then we can vote the remainder.
okay.
Yes, then we'll make a motion for that. So Article 34, authorize easements.
I voted to I moved that we recommend.
And it was seconded.
Have a second. So all those in favor to recommend?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Article passes as recommended. Right, now do I have an article, a motion for Articles 35, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 40.
I move we recommend Article 35, Highway Reimbursement Program, Article 36, Insurance Proceeds, Article 37, Gifts or Grants, Article 38, Federal and State Reimbursement Aid, Article 39, Performance Bonds, and Article 40, Sale of Foreclosed Properties.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Do I have any further discussion? All those in favor to recommend Article 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, and 40, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Deferred? Zero. That wraps up that part.
For the record, I think this is much better than last time.
It was a lot better, and I give thanks to town manager, and Frank can convey that again. That this year was a lot better than the best it's been in a long time. I'm sure Mr. Mill would agree to that as well.
Yes, because I can attest to how long it's been since we've been able to do this.
There's a lot of warrant.
That was a lot to me, so I do appreciate that. So finance committee business, I believe we got some, oh, I think that was a little different. Sorry.
Just have lots of papers.
We just have some paper, anybody wants any text paper, please come, you can take mine. You wanna update anybody need to do anything? I don't think you need to. We do have a meeting. Pre-town meeting. So it's cool.
It's only if you have presentation.
Oh, we do agree with paper, that's right.
Well, you have,
You
you have a
We'll have something happen.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, like a bowled over by a runaway
Royal
horse.
we.
Yeah, so that's why, and that is on Thursday, April 1st at 7 p.m. in room 204 of Town Hall,
Yeah.
422 Main Street. So,
Off the wall question, Mr. Chairman.
yes,
Since the governor's declared a state of emergency,
Mm-hmm.
is there any possibility we're gonna postpone town meeting?
now you have to ask the Board of Selectmen.
Select board.
Select B.
Not that yet, so.
There's always a chance.
I met yesterday with John and Mark Halls and Joanne Berry, and in terms of implementing the immediate items for the upcoming town meeting, and we did discuss, is there a possibility that we would have to postpone or defer town meeting, and we said let's just wait and see. We also discussed should there be a separate room for people who just would like to not be, you know, in the crowd. Now, a key thing for this committee, the appropriations for the next fiscal year for FY21 could be made at any time prior to July 1, so we do have a window there if we need to. But we, felt let's just see how things go. John had a meeting this morning with a multi-agency group, but that would be the regional school district, Boxborough officials, and multiple department heads. And he sent us this memo. We held a multi-agency, including ABR, SD, and Boxborough officials, and multi-department meeting to discuss the COVID-19 virus this morning. We do not have any presumptive cases in Acton, but we are taking several precautionary measures. At this time, we are not canceling any events, but will continue to monitor the situation very closely. We are publishing a public statement later today to keep the public informed. Now, when I left for this meeting, I didn't see the statement posted on the website. I dropped John a note and said, would you please send it to the all select board members. I took a look at the Baker statement online. This was on the MSN website, and what the state of emergency appears to apply to is all executive branch workforce people. That would be the governor's office and cabinet agency, cabinet departments and assorted agencies. And he said all executive branch workforce travel will be discontinued until further notice, and employees will be urged to avoid personal international travel. Conferences, seminars, and discretionary gatherings hosted by the executive branch agencies, including external parties, are to be held virtually or canceled. So that's the extent of what the executive order is intended to cover on his term.
I think it also gives him authority to move unilaterally if he needs to.
If he needs to, but that's what it covers for now. I mean, he's not closing down schools throughout the Commonwealth, although I noticed, Harvard is asking all of their students to, vacate the dorms, by this Friday.
Actually, MIT did that too, just
Yeah.
a couple of hours
Amherst
ago.
College, a lot have.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then Columbia, New York City, and Princeton in New Jersey.
If town meeting does happen, has there been discussion about returning to a voice vote, credit cards
I
rather than
was just
using
gonna ask
clickers?
about sanitizing the
We
clickers.
started having that discussion. It looks like we were just focusing on clicker vote. We were focusing on 2/3 votes, where you might need a hand count or a clicker count. I think the only really significant one would be the Kelly's Corner article. I think Joanne Berry's plans are, in the first instance, to take a voice vote to see if the voice vote makes it over the 2/3. But yeah, we are looking at how you clean clickers. You give them out the first night, they'll be all cleaned. What you might get back at the end of the night, and then have to clean them before you reissue them. So there are issues that Mark Hall is taking a hard look at, but we would try to have all votes done by voice if that's possible. And
So there will be a decision, because we don't want to hand out clickers if we don't need to.
we're exploring all options, see where we are.
Thank you. Adam?
I move that we adjourn.
Not yet. What? Are we gonna committee reports, or are we skipping that?
Any committee reports?
Health Insurance Trust met last
See?
Thursday.
Anything exciting?
Now we renewed the contracts with Blue Cross and Harvard Pilgrim to administer the plans.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Cost
got-
We got Harvard Pilgrim cut their costs.
Good job.
By a significant amount.
No.
Any cut is good.
Right, health insurance and cuts, I like it. I mean, wait, that came out wrong. Rate cuts, I like
Rate
that.
cuts, yeah,
Yeah,
not
not health insurance
cuts.
cuts.
And I'm gonna now entertain a motion.
You will, okay. I
Sorry.
move that we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Dave? Bueller?
When did you say our next meeting? We said Thursday the 2nd?
No, you come to the second, Julie.
Are we meeting in 2 weeks?
That'd be the 24th.
I have it on my calendar for the 24th.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the second Tuesday.
Let's leave it for right now.
And what was the other meeting you were?
Oh, the fourth.
announcing?
That was, that's a pre-town meeting.
Pre-town meeting.
You do not have to go down
I don't need to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but if you wanna see what it does, you, well,
It's for people who are giving PowerPoint presentations.
Got it.
if you'd like to go,
So,
you'd want.
24th, same time, same place.
Exactly.
No.
No,
No, we'll be
No.
back in
2:04.
Same bad time.
same bad time, not
Yes.
same bad.
Different bad.
Different bad channel.
Just getting used to this place.
You're not-
Yeah, this is convenient for me to get to with everything else I have going on Tuesday.
2 years ago.
I don't think it'll be less convenient to get to town hall though.
And for the actual town meeting, Adam, we need about an hour early.
That's
In case
what.
there were any
We made it open to both sides.
Okay.
Here we go.